We are Lisa and Tim of Old Rope Salvage, and we are building an off-grid house on wheels from the remains of this 1975 Bedford fire truck. We recently finished restoring all of the bodywork on the cab, including all of the big panels and the doors. But before we begin work on the big backbones of the chassis, we've taken a little time out to finish up a little artistic project we've had on the back burner for the last couple of months. That being our attempt to build a headliner for the cab made out of wooden slats. Can it be done? Will it work? We had no idea.
Well, there's no otherwise.
But in this week's video, we'll be finding out. Hopefully. So for this week's video, I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. Back to when it wasn't the hottest day of the year as it is today. It's freezing cold in here today, so I'm well wrapped up. Back when it was actually proper chilly and you could see your own breath in the workshop. Feels like a million years ago now. Back when we were working on the cab headliner. You might remember from one of our previous videos way back when, yesteryear, back in the mists of time, we were working on the cab headliner. We were actually attempting to make the headliner out of wood. A slightly crazy idea in the first place, but it was something that we really wanted to have a go at. A sort of artistic endeavour, if you like. But it meant that we were needing to cut out lots of slats of wood very thinly and bend them to shape to fit the cab roof. And we were attempting to do this with various pieces of wood, different kinds of wood, and we didn't have a great deal of success with it.
Not being grumpy, I hate it.
So at the end of that video, we actually left it with us basically chucking out everything that we'd already done and bringing in a new piece of wood, which was a massive chunk of oak that we were going to cut up and use instead. This massive chunk of oak that we were using is actually from the keel of a really old boat that was being broken up in the boatyard where Tim used to live. And being the salvager that he is, Tim, when it was being broken up, he actually managed to rescue this massive chunk of oak, which was the keel of the boat. And it isn't just any boat either. It was actually a boat which was used to rescue soldiers off the beach in Dunkirk back in the Second World War. So it has an incredible history. And we just thought, well, we'd been saving this oak for something special, and of course you never really quite know when that special thing has come along, but we decided to take the plunge and use this piece of oak, or part of it, because there is actually a lot of it, to make the wooden headliner in our cab and integrate it into this project. So we got a lot of this wood, and we selected a couple of the chunks of this keel, which is actually in pieces. They were kind of straight pieces that we used for this purpose. Now, of course, we didn't know what condition the oak was actually going to be in once we cut into it, because it's oak which has been essentially under the sea for quite a lot of years. And it was looking like really quite gnarly on the outside. So the only way we would know for sure if it was going to work, if we were going to be able to cut it into really thin slices and it was all going to hold together and not just break up or be rotten or be eaten away, was to clean it up and cut into it and have a look at what we got. So that's what we did. Let's have a look. So we sawed it in half, we inspected it, we sanded it, and incredibly, after spending possibly the best part of a century in seawater, what we discovered inside was this most beautiful piece of oak.
Right, so if we cut the slices off that way, you'll end up with lots of little lines coming in all the way down it. But if we end up cutting it, slicing that side, you end up with pieces where it's more likely to go, you know, that kind of, I don't know how you describe it really. It's a kind of a very different looking thing to that side.
Well, it looks really good there. It's got quite a lot of shakes in the wood and some splits.
and there's some knots, but we're not after a perfect finish necessarily. So if some of the edges go through, it'll just look like it's, you know, it is a proper piece of wood, isn't it? It's not a laminate piece of flooring.
We took a bit of time trying to decide which way to cut the wood. Both options gave a really nice look to the grain, and we both liked both ways, which didn't help much. In the end, the decision was made on something else entirely, and that was the holes which had been left after we'd removed the bronze rods which had been bolted through the wood. But more on that in a minute. It was a bit nerve-wracking slicing that ancient oak into thin slats. We worried it would all fall apart, but each piece held together just fine, and as we cleaned them up one by one, each piece began to reveal its grainy beauty to us for the first time. So after cleaning, sanding and splitting up all that wood, we could see that the pieces were actually going to be really nice. So we were feeling quite encouraged that we had made a good decision by using this piece of wood. The keel also had these massive brass rods running right through the wood, and we needed to remove them to cut the wood into the slices. And once we'd removed them, we were obviously left with these holes in the wood.
We're going to fill them with gold.
So rather than filling those holes just up with wooden dowels or something like that, we thought it would be really nice to actually use the brass rods, slice them up and put the little discs back into the wood. It's just a little extra touch of authenticity, and it's just little details like that which can make a project like this just extra special. So that's what we did. I'm not quite sure how many of those little bronze slices we cut up, glued in and polished, but it was quite a few. To glue them into place, we taped them off from the back, dropped them into place using a little bit of super glue, and then used sprinkles of the sawdust left over from cutting the slats to fill the gaps and give them a bedded in look. Once everything was dry, we then gave them a really good sand and polished them up to a lovely shine.
That'll be alright, won't it?
So we had a lot of wood of this keel. There was a lot of wood that we managed to salvage in the first place, but we really wanted to use the minimum on this project that we could get away with. So as I said earlier, we used one big chunk of wood. We cut it into two, as you saw earlier, and then slice those up. We need 21 slices altogether to fit the entire roof, and we had just enough wood for 21 slices. So we had to be really careful cutting it up that there was no wastage. And then we had that massive chunk of wood to start with. It was actually in the end reduced by half. Half of it went into sawdust because the actual saw on the table is like 3mm or thereabouts thick. Now we did look at using an alternative to a table saw, like a bandsaw. We thought maybe there'd be less wastage. We don't have a bandsaw, so we asked around a bit, and we were basically told that it wouldn't make much difference in that respect. So we used our table saw, the good old table saw from the middle of Lidl, and that ended up doing a really good job. So fortunately, in the end, we didn't actually have any wastage, but we actually managed to get the 21 slices out of it, which we were really pleased about.
It's like a nice table. There.
Ah yes, it was a work of art in itself, just getting all the slats into the right place. We didn't want to just throw them together, as each one has its own character, and so we arranged them carefully into a pattern which worked as a whole. Some of the slats were also a little damaged, so we had to be careful where we cut them to size. In this way we were able to ditch some of the more fragile broken areas. We were also careful about which ones we put in the middle, as that is where our old rope salvage logo will be painted, and we didn't want the logo to be fighting for attention with the grain of the wood. So there was a lot to consider, but it didn't half look nice when we'd finished arranging it all. It's actually a bit weird, like looking back on this footage from, I think it's like only March, April, so it's not even that long ago, but it feels like a whole different world back when we were wearing coats and hats and gloves and you could see your breath and everything. I'm actually sweltering today. I've got my thermometer out and the ceiling's actually 42.7 degrees, so if only we could like save a little bit of that heat and put it back into here in winter, that would be brilliant. Anyway, as you saw there, after we got all the slats laid out into a pattern that we liked and we glued in all those little brass discs, it was then time for us, I say we, as we, like the royal we, it's actually Tim, it was 95% Tim. Tim then had the long, boring task of bending each and every one of those slats around the form that he'd made to fit perfectly to the curve of the ceiling in the cab. And this is largely why it's taken so long to get the project finished, to get this video out to you, because it was just a really long process. Tim had already made a plan for how he could shape and bend each of the slats to the curve of the cab roof, and had made the form on which to mould each piece. After a lot of trial and error, he had figured out a typically low-tech, low-cost method of bending each slat using heat and moisture, and now the extra magic ingredient of tin foil.
So I guess what's happened here is we've actually created our own little steam box for the piece of wood, and it allows you to sort of take your time with it. You can leave it like this, get it hot and then leave it for a while and then come back to it. Just for demonstration purposes, I'll show you. I'll pull this back a bit. It is properly hot, that is now. And that'll start working its magic, softening up those fibres. I can already feel it's getting softer. So I'll just leave it a while, come back, you know, and hit it with the gun a little bit, keep it nice and hot, and then just keep bending it until it's soft and goes into the right position. Yep. And hopefully this oak will bend nicely, because otherwise, well, there's no otherwise.
Persuading the oak to bend, however, was only the first step in this really long process. For the wood to keep its shape and be both strong and lightweight, Tim had devised a method using composite materials, beginning with a strip of foam, cut to the size of each slat, lightly sanded to give a little grip, and then using Gorilla Glue spread thinly across the entire surface of the wood, the foam was then secured in place.
This glue is brilliant, but it is impossible to clamp down because it wants to slide everywhere. It's like a little ice rink, this stuff. So you have to stop it sliding. The best way I found of doing that is a lot of tape.
With the foam strip taped securely into position, Tim then clamped the whole thing down using the forms he had made to secure each of the curved ends, making doubly sure that the shape of the wood would be exactly right, and then using every clamp and weight in the workshop to hold the whole thing tightly and precisely in place. Did I mention that this was a long process? Oh my dears, we are just getting started.
Now we shall wait for the glue to set. Let's get it unclamped. Right, now I've got to pick off all the little bits of tape I stuck on earlier. There. So yeah, giving it a light sand, and the next thing we'll do is put on the fiberglass. I've got this in a woven, it's in a strip, and it's stitched along the edges, and that means it doesn't fall apart. But this is about 6 inches, and this is just over 3. So what I do is I cut it in half. So that gives me 2 layers over the whole thing. And an extra little bit, I put a little bit, so makes 3 layers just on the bend. I don't think this is necessary now because the oak seems to steam so much better than the other stuff did that we first started doing. But I started doing it, so I might as well carry on the way I started.
I signed my name on a dotted line.
Now this is cut up into a couple of strips. We're going to weigh out the epoxy. There are various types of epoxy available, like clear coats, deep fills, laminating resins. It's a bit of a minefield out there on eBay and Amazon and stuff. We got this from a place called Easy Composites Limited. It was pretty straightforward to order off their website, loads of information. So I'd say get the right epoxy for whatever you're doing. They're not all the same. If you're doing a table pour or laminating like we are, there's various types. It's very difficult on eBay and places to kind of work out actually what it is you're buying. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're going to do this by weight. I'm using 41 grams of this to 12.5 grams of the fast hardener, and this will give us about enough time to lay up each one of these. I don't know what it is, about 10 minutes working time you've got, and you have to really thoroughly mix it. So get the gloves on, weigh this out, start slavering it about.
I signed my name on a dotted line, and it was good, good, good.
Right, that's all mixed. Let's get it on.
Milk at supper time, and it was good, good, good. The moon twinkled high in the southern sky, and it was good, good, good. Now the honeymoon's over.
Concentration levels. Concentration never seen before on old Rube Salvage.
All the good times and the bad, the best times I ever had. The choice between happy and sad, all the good times and the bad, bad, bad.
If Easy Composites or anyone else who sells this stuff wants to give me advice about how I'm doing stuff wrong, I'd love to hear it. Or actually, if anyone who knows about fiberglassing can tell me what I'm doing wrong, would love to hear. Because I don't want to be the person who passes on bad advice.
She was really fine and it was good.
Pretty good. Pretty good even coverage.
But she lost the grip.
This stuff I've been leaving for. I've been doing one every other day to give it like a full-on day to dry, and also so that I don't get bored by doing this all the time, which was kind of necessary when the weather was a little bit lower, like when it was around the 10 degrees. Now the weather's got up to, on occasions it's sort of like 13. It would probably be dry in 24 hours. I'm just leaving it for longer because I don't want to be doing this all the time. These are the backing paper from our insulation we put in the truck cab, and they're sort of a grease-proof paper. Basically, I just coat this over the fiberglass, and then the form that goes over it obviously doesn't stick and it doesn't mess it up. I think you can use greaseproof paper, same sort of thing. But these are all free. We'll get these stuck on and then put the form bits, the outer bits back on and clamp it down and then leave it for a couple of days. And hopefully by then it should all be dry and we'll have one more roof bit. Come back when it's dry. It's 2 days later now after gluing this one up. We're back in here. It's bank holiday Monday morning. I'm just going to get this out of the way because we need the desk because we're going to do some sandblasting today. But this is the one we made earlier. Let's have a look.
I'll just move this out of the way.
Right. Very good. That's it straight out of the form. It's probably going to end up sometimes getting a bit of a dribbles of the resin coming down in a couple of places. Sometimes if we've got any little gaps, the foaming glue will find the little gaps and come through. That just takes a little bit of chiseling off and a bit more sanding. And then later on I'll get the belt sander and clean up the edges. So there you go, that's basically how it's done. Oh wow, we're doing it. How many's that left? 5 left to go. Oh thanks. Are we back into another video now?
Yeah.
Which video am I on now?
Sandblasting.
Sandblasting, hey!
Tim did eventually get most of them finished. I think he maybe got about 12, 15, something like that, before we decided we actually really needed to break off for a while and then get on with doing all the panels, the sandblasting, the repairing and the painting, which you would have seen over the last couple of months or so. If you haven't, I'll pop a link up there on the screen to our panel painting days. So we then had to take a lengthy break. And that was it really until a couple of weeks ago when we finished the panels and we were able to get back to doing this project, or finishing this project off, before we start on the next major phase of the build, which is doing the chassis, as we keep on promising. It is finished. It does indeed look epic, as we promised way back when we were still young and optimistic and full of hope.
It's gonna look epic. Epic.
An epic roof.
Epic roof.
But you're going to have to wait until the next video to see it all finished. Otherwise, if I put everything together now that we've done since the footage I've just shown you, this video will be like an hour long, and trust me, nobody wants that. So as I stand here chatting to you, Tim is actually just over there. I'd like to say he's just putting the finishing touches to it, but actually he's just sitting back on his bottom, looking really hot and sweaty. Not necessarily in a good way. But we have painted our logo onto it and everything, and it looks really, really good. So stay tuned for part 2, and I will get that video out to you as soon as possible. In the meantime, I hope that you're enjoying your summer, whatever you might be doing. I hope you enjoyed this little jaunt back to winter with me. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the conclusion to this cliffhanger, if you like, and I guess we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks. Do you want to come and say goodbye to the nice people? He is here. I've not like murdered him and put him in the freezer or anything.
Am I on the wrong side?
So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll bring you back to the summer next week. Or maybe the week after. Who knows? Next time, we're on the evening shift, working in the dark with our projector. So we've got Tim on night mode. Taking final measurements.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Gets rid of that gap.
And making final adjustments and getting our logo painted in for the big reveal, at last, of this epic wooden headliner.
together. The lie has made the die.